Welcome, everybody, to MCU Later. We are here to talk about the season finale of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. My name is Wai Ting, here every week with WH Park. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm going to be COVID vaccinated tomorrow. Hopefully.
Huge congratulations. That is fantastic, fantastic news, man. Awesome.
With either Pfizer or Moderna.
Mm.
So you got.
According to Dr. Alex Patel, like it doesn't matter if I get the other ones, but hey, if I'm going to drive my choice of BMW, Mercedes, or a Pinto, I'll take the fucking Mercedes. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, yes, yeah. You are in our hearts, definitely worthy of the serum. So, congratulations, WH. Nate Milton is also joining us for a third week in a row. Thank you so much, Nate, for making the time. How are you, Nate?
What kind of question is that, Wai Ting? I'm a black man in America on a Canadian podcast wearing the stars and stripes. What do you mean I don't understand, even though that's not the question that you asked? I'm doing good, brother. I'm excited for the night, man. And I'm glad to hear that news about WH. So I'm glad to hear that you're going to get them shots, brother.
Listen, I just want to say how happy I am to see comic accurate Nate Milton on my screen right now.
Comic accurate Nate Milton. Fantastic. Alrighty. Let's just dive right in. And of course, I want to also acknowledge not just the three of us, but everybody in the Zoom room right now. We are here live for the season finale for all Post Wrestling Cafe patrons. So thank you to everybody who has made the time to join us. We will be hearing from anybody who wants to chime in about any thoughts, not just about this episode, but also about the MCU. So stick around as we go through this episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 6, One World, One People. Thoughts, everybody. This was the episode where we get basically for 30 minutes the big final epic fight scene, and then kind of like the last 20 minutes being sort of a bit of a denouement, showing you where everybody kind of ends up. Let's go around the table about some of our general thoughts here, and let's start with you, WH.
Overall, I enjoyed most of this episode. I think all the stuff with Sam and the performance by Anthony Mackie just landed for me. All the stuff that involved him and Isaiah Bradley worked for me. My only, I suppose, issues were with Sharon Carter being the power broker. I just thought that was so obvious, and it seemed like you could have gone a different route with that idea, but I'm just glad maybe Emily Van Camp's going to have a lot to chew on in future appearances as this new version of Sharon Carter. And I gotta say, I was really disappointed with like how John Walker became U.S. agent, because like I just felt he got his redemption too quickly and too easily, and he didn't work for it. And so that whole aspect of his arc really let me down, because I thought he was going in such a really interesting direction from episode 5, and then it kind of veered into kind of, I don't know, standard procedure, or like, okay, let's just make him a good guy now, and like we don't know, who knows what's going to happen with him down the line. I just thought you could have had a more kind of sinister presentation of him going into becoming the U.S. agent.
We'll dive into some of those opinions a little bit later, but first, your general thoughts, Nate Milton.
I feel like this episode, Wai, was kind of like if you go to a KFC or Popeyes or Bojangles or whatever the Canadian equivalent would be, and you get a biscuit. And like it's a really fresh biscuit, but the outside is real crumbly and it doesn't stay together, but that inside just hits. That's what I felt about episode 6. Like everything surrounding Sam's story, I thought worked. And I thought the emotional beats hit. But, to WH's point, when you talk about Carly's story and the Flag Smashers, when you talk about John Walker's story, when you talk about Sharon Carter's story, I feel like all of those bits kind of crumbled at the end. So it was a messy conclusion. It felt a bit rushed at times. It felt a bit unfinished in certain instances. But for the overall aim of the show, which was to take Sam Wilson, Falcon, and have him be Captain America by the end of the series, a believable Captain America, I think they accomplished that. Bucky, I thought with Bucky, they did a lot of really good things, and we'll talk about it tonight. It could have hit a little bit harder with Bucky, but that last shot with the two of them, like we landed the plane. There was a little bit of turbulence we hit coming in way, but I think they landed the plane.
I really like the airplane. I love both of those analogies, the biscuit and the airplane. But the airplane one I think really works for me because I think for this most of the series, episodes 1 through 5, man, this thing was just expert flight. The weather conditions were perfect. It even man, beautiful birds, like a rainbow outside the window. It was the most beautiful flight. First extra seat in first class that I got upgraded. It was a wonderful surprise. I can't really say that it was such a perfect landing. I thought episodes 1 through 5, to me, felt incredibly smartly written, felt nuanced in dealing with a lot of, I think, complicated themes. It was a superhero story that was, to me, told with like artistic sensibility that is fitting of like a modern age. Episode 6, to me, I thought felt very rushed, as you had mentioned, or maybe both of you had mentioned, and to me, almost felt a lot more kind of like, all right, we got to wrap all this up. Here's all the stuff. Here's let's take shortcuts, let's have like an extended speech. Let's have like all these people like, just like forgiving these pretty villainous people leading up into this episode. And in a sense, it felt a lot more like, I think, almost like a 90s comic book film before we've kind of had, the age of great, more, complex comic book stories, in that I felt like everything was kind of unbelievably wrapped up a little too much. But those are some of our general thoughts. Let's kind of dive into a bit more of the individual storylines here. And of course, we have to start with the main character here, Sam Wilson. This is the episode where he becomes Captain America, has a big epic fight scene. I guess, saving a lot of lives, but ultimately against Carly Morgenthau, who he refuses to fight. And then, of course, we get that big speech where he convinces the GRC to not go through with their Patch Act. And we then further see him talk about, we'll talk about some of the other characters. But first, maybe how did Sam's arc wrap up for you, Nate Milton?
I loved it. I think that, first, starting from the very beginning of the episode where we see Sam in the suit and he's coming through. And I think at like the first time I saw the suit on screen, it was like cool, but I didn't quite think it fit this world. But then like I've watched the episode 4 times since yesterday. And the more I see it, the more I like it. The only issue I have, and I know it's comic accurate, WH, is I think, in subsequent outings, maybe they can tinker with the cowl, because I think that part's a little wonky. But overall, I thought the suit looked really cool. Sam Wilson, empathetic, caring man that he is, he doesn't give a damn about your windows, because that was his go-to move. I'm gonna throw the shield through the window, then I'm gonna fly through the window, and sorry about your insurance. But I thought like the action stuff was cool with Sam. I liked that, even in the fight scenes, particularly with Carly, we still had empathetic Sam. And I think that, again, goes to illustrate why he was the right choice to be Captain America. I dug the scene where him and I don't know what her rank was, but Isla, coordinated during the helicopter fight. I love that he's got Red Wing back. I love that, he put this mantle on and now he's thriving with it. I think when it comes to the speech, because this is something I've seen a lot of kind of division about. I totally get what you're saying, Wai. Like, was it corny? Yes, in ways. Was it kind of overly schmaltzy or overly idealistic? 100%. But so was Steve Rogers. And I think that speech to me was like Sam not only stepping into Steve's shoes with the costume, but I'm stepping into Steve's shoes as I'm going to be the moral conscience where America's leadership has failed. Going back to Captain America and the Winter Soldier, where Steve was like, yeah, this ain't right. I don't care if I've got to go against Nick Fury or Robert Redford or whoever in the government. Right is right. And I saw that with Sam in that speech. And yeah, like it was overly dramatic for the series that we've kind of established this tone, but it got to me a little bit. And so I thought that was, a good moment for Sam Wilson. And then at the very end, we'll talk more in depth about the Isaiah stuff, but that got me a little choked up way. And then seeing him at the very end with his family and Bucky and his community, like I I think Anthony Mackie is so good in this role, and like I'm glad that we already got the announcement that we're gonna get a Cap 4 with Anthony Mackie, because I'm excited to see what this dude can continue to do in this role of Captain America. So yeah, to me, everything kind of surrounding Sam, that's the good part of the biscuit right there. Wai Ting had all the butter and all the honey and all the jelly, depending on what your topping of choice is. Like that just hit for me.
For me, I think it's a great point that you bring up that, despite being corny, I mean, Steve is kind of known for being corny. Something about it though just maybe felt so incongruent, maybe with some of the stuff we had seen the rest of the show. Tonally, like you had mentioned, I just don't think it really fit all that well. And I think for me too, I I like the costume in fight scenes, but when we see such a human, real world situation, like a man having just, I guess, saved all these people, speaking in the middle of a crowd with like two politicians, him talking like that with this pretty ridiculous outfit just kind of sucked me right out of the reality of the situation. And when you just kind of couple with like the cutaways of people going, hmm, yeah, like that was a bit too much, you know? But I agree, like overall, I think they did a great job elevating this man's character from beginning to end to the point now where he feels like he is an earned Captain America. Um, what did you think, WH Park?
I can't, I don't know what I can add to what's already been said by you and Nate their way, but I mean, I didn't feel it was like cheesy, his speech. I felt this is like something anyone would say, like to try to inspire. Like he's cognizant of the fact that he's on television and he has to speak in such a way that he has to reach as many people as possible. And like the general public tends to expect, people who are in positions of influence to speak a certain way, and he's speaking that way. He's speaking like not a polished politician, but someone who wants to speak to the politicians. Mm-hmm. And by speaking to the politicians, he's also speaking to the general public out there and like letting them know, like I can speak their lingo, like I can speak the way these people understand. And by that I mean like the politicians that he's speaking to. As far as the costume goes, I mean, I generally like it. I understand the cowl thing. And listen, I'm one of these people that like thinks that like Steve Rogers always looked better without the mask on. Actually, I like the helmet was fine. That first Avengers movie costume was fucking shit. Okay, it looked like some shit out of like fucking 80s. It's terrible. Thank God they fixed that in Age of Ultron and subsequent appearances for Steve Rogers. Like the Winter Soldier stealth costume, badass. Awesome. He went back to the original costume from First Avenger. Fucking I popped big time. All right. But that first Avengers movie costume, shit. Terrible. But like with Sam, like I can see at some point maybe like they'll tweak it. They'll get rid of the cowl. He doesn't need it. Anthony Mackie doesn't need that thing. He could just like be the cap suits, everything up, neck up from here. Just the goggles. It's all good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could definitely see them tweaking it, for his next appearance. And I definitely think part of that was if that speech took place with him just like being Sam and not seeing his full face, I might have taken it a little bit better. But as far as let's maybe move on to maybe some of the other the other character that is in the title here in Bucky.
I have one thing to say before we move on.
Yeah.
And that's Nate Milton. All this talk of biscuits. I want to go to like a Cracker Barrel with you someday, my friend.
I think, so for that to happen though, WH, we probably need to go to Jacksonville and go to an AEW show. So are you willing to make that sacrifice?
If I can yell at Cody and the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and just say, you guys fucking suck, no problem.
Oh my God, that is a dream trip. AEW with WH.
Hey, Bucky, Cody, nice tattoo, you loser. Dream like chant to say at an AEW show.
Bucky, of course, his role was really just, I think, as somebody to also step into the fight at this point. But I would say his big emotional scene comes at the end when he finally confronts Yori Nakajima, the old Asian man, about admitting to being the man to have murdered his son. What did you think about the conversation, WH Park?
I thought we should have had more of it, to be honest with you. I thought it was kind of a cheat not to show it fully. I think I think Sebastian Stan deserved to be able to play that out. And I felt a little cheated, like, and then it's the last thing we see is him walking by the sushi restaurant with, I forget her name, the girl he was dating in the first episode, and Nori like there, like getting served by her. And I thought, that's it. That's all we're getting. Like, hey, I had an awesome sushi lunch today, and I thought that was way more fulfilling than that scene.
I totally agree with you, WH. I mean, I was expecting for Bucky this to be like his big scene in the entire show, in the entire series. This was what we were leading up to, and I just expected waterworks, and instead it just felt like they went the bare minimum to wrap up this story. We didn't really get any sort of like. I meant waterworks instead of fireworks. Nor fireworks nor waterworks. Any element, pick it. We didn't really see the works. And it was just wrapped up really quickly. He goes in, admits it, and I think like the acting was really well done from what we got to see. But then he just walks out, and then seeing him in the sushi restaurant, as if like he sees him in the sushi restaurant, and Bucky's like, mm-hmm, yep, like the same look he gave Sam as he was delivering a speech, and as if that was supposed to like let us know that everything was okay. Yes, I understand telling the truth was part of his healing. That did accomplish it. But what about the ramifications of the truth? That to me is like, I wanted to see this guy like shut the door on him, or like, like something to like completely sever that relationship and really show the pain of like, him having to suffer, bear what he did, even if he was not responsible for it. I definitely needed a bit more. How about you, Nate?
Yeah, this needed to be Bucky's equivalent to the Sam Isaiah Bradley conversation from episode 5. This needed to be something where we really felt that emotion. And like you said, what we got was good, but there wasn't nearly enough. And I think that goes to what we were talking about off the top, where they wrapped up a lot of things too quickly and too neatly. I almost feel like they could have done with an extra episode, that they could have used that mythical extra episode from WandaVision. Because I felt they needed more time to, kind of land all these planes and butter all these biscuits to further my analogies. But I really wanted that moment, like you said, Wai. Like we saw Bucky, unload this truth on Yori, but I really wanted to see a moment because we see, Yori kind of hang his head, but I really wanted to see a moment where Yori was like, get out, like he cuts Bucky off. And we get that inference at, when he sees Yori at the bar from the outside, but I needed to see that as a viewer. Like I needed to see Yori just be like, you're no longer welcome here. This friendship is over. And just see the weight of that, the ramifications of that hit Bucky, because I think part of the lesson is like Sam was saying, you're not doing this to make you feel good. You're doing this to help this other person heal. And I think showing more of Mr. Nakajima's reaction would have gone to further that point. So, Stan was doing his Stan thing in that scene. He was emoting all the emotions, but I definitely could have used another 5 minutes of the two of them just sitting in that moment.
I feel like we should have got something like written by Aaron Sorkin. Instead, we got something like written by David E. Kelly. Lame.
Sharon Carter is the power broker. She had a lot to do in this episode, making her way over from Madripoor into U.S. soil, starting off fighting with our heroes, and then later revealing herself, unbeknownst to Sam and Bucky and the rest of the American government, that she is indeed the power broker. What did you guys think about this big reveal, Nate?
I mean, we all kind of assumed it. We all kind of saw the clues. We read the breadcrumbs on the ground. I still don't know after this episode how to feel about Sharon Carter in this series. And it's not anything negative towards Emily Van Camp's portrayal, but it doesn't make sense. I remember we were talking last week, Wai. Like if Sharon's the power broker, and I said it, if Sharon's the power broker, they've got to answer a lot of questions. And they didn't answer any damn questions this week.
I really tried hard to like retrace the steps and tried to make the sense of it. I even went back to rewatch episode 3 when we were reintroduced to Sharon. And okay, and I think I have an explanation. So Sharon Carter is the power broker. She has hired this guy Nagel to try to create super soldiers in order for her to broke power, like for her to, I guess, just accumulate things. She was successful because he was successful. They've acquired all these super soldier serums. Carly Morgenthau and the rest of the, I guess, orphans, they steal it. They betray her. So now she needs to get them back. At the same time, Sam, Bucky, Zemo find their way to Madripoor, and this is on Sharon's radar. And so I think Sharon's other play, once that opportunity arose, was she wants to get back into the U.S. She wants her thing cleared, and so she does everything we see in episode 3 in order to try to get that pardon through Sam. And I think that's the explanation for why they brought them to Nagel, not expecting that Zemo would kill Nagel and basically screw her shit up even more. And maybe that's the reason why she said to her chauffeur, like, we have a problem, a big problem, a couple of them. But I think ultimately Sharon's plan, started to divert from the super soldier thing to more so just wanting to get in with the U.S. government, getting back into U.S. soil so that she could probably sell more things.
I also wonder how much of Sharon's backstory is tied in with Carly's backstory, because that was something that was sorely missing through this series. And, who knows how much of that was due to having to rearrange things because of the pandemic and having to rewrite stuff because they didn't want to do a pandemic storyline. But, we get this line in the middle of this episode where we've got the standoff between Carly and Sharon. And she's like, just come back and work for me. And I'm just like, excuse me? Like, we didn't even know you worked for her the first time. Like, we knew you had an affiliation, but I think there was a lot of filling in the clues way that they needed to do for us as an audience. And yeah, like, I get it that you don't want to spell everything out explicitly for the viewers. You want to have some faith in your audience, but you've also got to give them something that they can hook on to. And I just never got that with Sharon. Even at the post-credit scene where she's getting her pardon and she's walking out with the sinister music behind her, I'm like, I still don't know how to feel about this Sharon Carter character.
How about you, WH? What do you think?
I think with Sharon Carter, like, we don't get like layers with this revelation of her being the power broker. It's just like, she's bad now because she was angry because she became a fugitive because she helped Steve and Sam in Civil War. Okay, that's it. But now she's like got sinister music and, hey, I'm gonna sell all this fucking government secrets and shield tech or whatever the fuck I can get my hands on. I'm gonna sell it to the highest bidder. That just rings hollow to me. Like, I can see her having some kind of bitterness and trying to get back at the United States government or something like that. I don't see her necessarily becoming like a complete like mercenary or becoming so like, hating her country as so much as like hating her government. I can understand, like, but hating her country so much that she'll like sell weapons to like, probably nation states that are, hostile towards the United States. I just don't see that for happening with her because she used to be a SHIELD agent. She used to be a top SHIELD agent. She used to be an agent of the CIA. Like, it just rings false for me. And I just feel it's like really, really lazy writing. And the other thing about like that part and the part with John Walker is like, these just feel like setting up of another movie instead of like being a conclusion to this series. It feels like this is now like, hey, we're gonna here's some crumbs for the other series, the other biscuit we're gonna give you, but you gotta wait for this shit, and we may or may not get any kind of like, development or resolution to like Sharon's story in whatever comes next, whether it's Cap 4 or if they do another Disney Plus series.
Another thing, way that like annoyed me about that post-credit or the mid-credit scene with Sharon, and I'm a man of analogies, I'm a man of metaphors, and Sharon's on the phone, super soldiers are no longer on the menu. I wanted her to continue with that. Like, now we've got government secrets 2 for $20, all you can eat prototype weapons. Make sure you've got a coupon. Like, I need it. If you're gonna go that way, Sharon, if you're gonna be the mustache twirling villain, go all the way.
A power broker, like, restaurant, I think would be perfect.
Specials with mimosas.
Oh man, wow. That's the next series, I think.
Let me tell you though something, Nate. Can I just say, I'll take a Sharon Carter mustache twirling supervillain to Kenny Omega mustache twirling supervillain. Fucking nerd.
Nate, you had kind of, alluded to rumors that there was set to be another story that was originally in this script about something, concerning a virus that they ended up scrapping, of course, due to real life events. So we often, much like WandaVision, we have to wonder how COVID might have affected, not just production, but maybe storyline as well. And that directly ties into Carly Morgenthau and the Flag Smashers and really their aim. Overall, how did you guys feel about Carly Morgenthau's story and the way it ended here? WH.
I like the journey, and I think the destination, getting to the destination in this episode was a little bumpier than it needed to be. I think she just became kind of an afterthought, which I thought was a shame because I thought from like I don't know episode 2 and 3 on, like she became her motivations like okay, I can relate to this. I can relate to someone who feels like they've been displaced by world governments and they want to fight for the rights of their people. But I think the problem with her character is that her means became the ends, and her ends became the means to justify those means. I'm doing this for people. I'm doing this for all the displaced people. I'm trying to help people. Like refugees and whatever. But she's also like just killing people, and I think she enjoys it. I get that feeling, but you don't really get that hammered home, and I feel that needed to be hammered home. Like she got twisted by the serum. Like her intentions were good, but these intentions got warped by her taking the serum, and so like she became a killer. Like you can draw a lot of parallels between her and Walker and the way he acts after he takes the serum as well. But I didn't feel that satisfied with her story in this particular episode.
Nate?
To me, the Flag Smashers were the weakest part of the show. And I get that they had to rearrange some things, most likely, but I think they took a lot of shortcuts with the character of Carly. Like WH said, there's a compelling story there of this young girl, this young woman who's leading this group, this multicultural group. I don't think that was by just central casting, like give me all these pretty multicultural people. Like that was a direct statement that when things like this happen in the world, who are the people most affected? And they will most often look like the Flag Smashers, like all these various people from various parts of the world. So like I wanted to root for the Flag Smashers, or at least empathize with the Flag Smashers, but it was so hard because the story they were trying to tell wasn't the story that ended up on the screen. And by the time we get to episode 6, like the only empathy I really had for Carly was kind of secondhand empathy through Sam. Because it's like if Sam's not giving up on this kid who I've written off 2 episodes ago, like maybe there's something there. So to me, like that was her only saving grace by the time we got to the end. And this is not a disrespect to Aaron Kellyman's portrayal, because I thought when they actually gave her something to chew on, she did a good job with it, but the story wasn't there to support the way they wanted us to feel about the Flag Smashers. And so when she's killed at the end of this, or in the middle of this episode, like you don't want to see this kid get killed, but at the same time, like Sam's feeling a lot more affected than I am. I'm so disaffected I can't even get the sentence out. But I think my only empathy way was how Sam looked at her. So looking at her through Sam's eyes gave me sympathy for her. But other than that, like it wasn't there on the page.
Sam certainly gave her a great deal of rope, and I think we accept it because we know Sam is right. We know he is the hero. We trust his judgment, but I don't think we saw enough throughout the show to feel the same way. He is giving, especially like it was really exemplified by that final fight where Falcon refuses to fight this person who has been straight up murdering several people, threatened your sister, and just like I think it really had become irredeemable by that point. But that fight between Falcon and Carly really, I think, was supposed to mirror Cap's fight with Bucky from like Winter Soldier, where he refuses to fight him because we know deep down, he knows deep down, and we know deep down because we saw Bucky from when he was Sam's best friend. We know he's good. We have not gotten that same sense from Carly. They might have tried to show that, maybe with like the funeral scene with Mama Danya and whoever. But I didn't really feel it. And I don't know if you chalk it up to the performance or if you chalk it up to the writing. But I think especially towards the end, we know this show has really done a great job of trying to create like shades of gray characters. Even the villains, you're supposed to understand their motivation. But by the time they got here, it felt almost too much of a pivot to that one-dimensional character, and that's where Carly suddenly being incredibly murderous and wanting to just kill people for the sake of killing people at times didn't really work for me.
Well, it wasn't just us, Way. Like, it was her own crew, right? With that scene where she's like, "Well, we'll just murder them," and the rest of the Flag Smashers is like, "That wasn't the plan at all." It's like one world, and they're like, I don't know. Recognized game, and you looking real unfamiliar right now, Carly.
I really like what what you said about the serum perhaps causing that drive to one dimensionality, which we see with all these other characters. But maybe they didn't hit that hard enough. Maybe you're right.
I also think, like, as soon as you reveal that Sharon Carter is the power broker, and that Carly knows it, like, I knew, like, as soon as that happened, I'm like, okay, she has to die, because then because the whole thing with Sharon has to go forward is that no one knows that she's the power broker, that she's become a bad guy now, right? So like as soon as like, you're the power broker, Carly, she's dead. We can't have her. It's a plot device. She becomes a plot device rather than a character. And like her story has to wrap up in this way, and the writers couldn't figure out a way to do it in a satisfactory manner, in my opinion, and I guess the opinion of like all of us here.
John Walker also had his a bit of a culmination here. In fact, I would say he had a pretty straight up. I don't know if you would necessarily call it a babyface turn, but certainly I think we ended off with him. Certainly after episode 4, being a full blown heel, recognized by the government, who has turned on him as well. But here he is pretty quickly fighting arm in arm with our heroes, and just kind of ends up walking away. Later on, of course, we see him with Val, and we see him turn finally from Captain America into the U.S. agent. How did you guys like John Walker's story? Let's start with you, Nate.
Man, there was at least one scene missing, maybe more. And again, like this, they tried to do a lot in this one episode, and I don't think they hit all of their targets. Like, I needed at least one scene with Walker there with Bucky and Sam, where Bucky's like, what the hell are you doing here? And Walker says whatever Walker says, and Sam like, hey, well, if you're here, you got to do it the right way. At least something, because the turn we get, it just doesn't hit. And I do like the beat where Carly drives the GRC, the truck carrying the GRC members over that ledge, and has it teetering, and Walker's got to make that decision, and you can tell he's wrestling with himself. And again, I don't think they did enough to get into Walker's kind of PTSD combined with that super soldier serum. We see little ticks here and there, but we don't get enough of that, I don't think. So like, I definitely like Walker's ending better than Carly's or Sharon's, but it still fell flat. Like, and the point where this man had the audacity, and then again, like, now that I'm saying it out loud, that he had the audacity to be out here quipping, like, that plays into maybe the entitlement of our guy John Walker here. So maybe that was accurate, that he would be out here making quips when him and Bucky teamed up to capture the remaining Flag Smashers. But Wyatt Russell did a great job all series, man. I don't think you can take anything away from his performance. We talk about these characters being elevated through these series. Like, I think Sam's a main eventer. I think Bucky's, if not a main eventer, an upper mid-carder. I think John Walker is definitely a strong mid-carder now. Somebody that people are going to be interested to see next time he turns up. I just wish they had done more to establish him in this series. And maybe maybe that is kind of the fault of this entire series. As much as I liked a lot of what they gave us, there was a lot of things they threw in the airway, and you're not going to be able to catch everything within these 6 episodes. So, like, I think Wyatt Russell did a great job. I'm interested to see where they go with U.S. Agent, but the redemption arc kind of came too quick for me.
It felt to me like this was, they had their story, and I think they told it well all throughout the 5 episodes. But suddenly, episode 6, all right, we got to set this dude up for the Thunderbolts, who are, supposed to be, like the Suicide Squad, somewhat tweener. We can't have him be so hateable, so let's just quickly transition him to this so that the audience might like him. Now, I'm watching this whole thing, like thinking in hindsight, I really do wonder how much we are supposed to hate John Walker. And like how much the writers intended us to completely hate John Walker. They definitely framed him as somebody who brought great shame to the Shield. He is a counter to Bucky and Sam. But were we supposed to hate him as much as maybe we ended up hating for him desecrating the Shield? I wonder. Does the MCU, did the writers consider the crime of him killing that Flag Smasher as serious as maybe the audience ended up taking it? Because it felt like he was being forgiven by the show maybe a lot quicker than the audience has. Did you agree, WH? How did you feel?
I think the scene that really disappointed me the most was the courtroom scene with Val, John Walker's wife, and John Walker, where he comes out with the new suit that's the same suit but just black, as he says, and then he just goes, I'm back, which is a callback to the issue of Captain America where John Walker does come back as the U.S. agent, and he's on the cover and he says, I'm back. If you can look that up on Google or whatever. But I thought you took away all the edge you gave him in episode 5 and all this kind of danger that made him really, really interesting to me as well, where's he going to go? And then you just softened him. You just made him soft in this one scene. He's just not interesting as he was before. And I just was the wind was knocked out of my sails for this character. And I'm hoping that they can kind of pivot back to him being very unstable and very dangerous, and what it would take for him to redeem himself for desecrating the Shield by murdering somebody with it. I mean, I don't feel like Sam or Bucky would forgive him so easily. They'd be like, hey, we don't want your fucking help because you're fucking crazy, dude. We'll take care of the Flag Smashers. If I'm Sam, I'm not accepting John Walker's help. I'm I want Carly alive. You're gonna kill her. Fuck you. Get out of here. I don't. And Bucky should be backing his boy up. You know what I mean? So to me, that whole aspect of the episode with John Walker's involvement didn't ring true to any of the characters involved in interacting with him in that scene. And like I said, the scene in the courtroom where he debuts the name U.S. Agent and the new costume, I was just this is so cheesy. I don't want cheesy John Walker. I want U.S. Agent that's dangerous and unstable and it's going to be used as a dangerous weapon by the United States government, which is entirely plausible in real life.
I like that moment with the truck, but I think that should have happened in this mythical episode 7. I think this week we should have been dealing with the immediate ramifications of what happened in episode 5, where Walker feels betrayed by his country, where Walker, has this vague conversation with Val, where Walker has this gut-wrenching conversation with the Hoskins family, and then he's at work building his own shield. I think episode 6 should have been about how do we get from this Walker that's torn up with grief, that's got the PTSD and the super soldier serum running through his mind, that is hell-bent on revenge. How do we get from that guy to the guy in the courtroom I'm back, baby? We needed at least one episode, I think, in between those two character moments.
I think you both bring up some great points. In thinking about it again, it almost felt like this episode he was a very different character from what we last saw him. Last episode, and really throughout the entire series, he was very serious and, like you said, WH, with scary, with that level of edge. This episode, it almost made him feel like a comedy character. He just almost felt like sort of a goofier Captain America who makes, corny Lincoln references and then says things like, I'm back. I'm back, guys. Wow, this is just like the old Super Black.
It
Just
just
felt very
he
different.
reverted back to the second episode, his first appearance, like in
Mm-hmm.
high school, like his debut as Captain America at his old high school. That's what it felt like, and it literally felt like a step backwards for the character for me.
And it's fine. Like I think it's fine if we go back to that if that's who he really is, WH. But you got to show us how he gets there.
I want the journey. I don't want like a fucking teleportation device like sending him back to that character again. I want to see the road he takes to get there, like include his wife in this road. Like that'd be interesting. Like that doesn't exist in the comics. Okay, like how does he heal? Okay, let's show how his wife helps him heal, because it's hinted at that she's a big part of like the good part of him, like the part that's a good human being. And we don't see any of this. She's kind of a punchline for Julie Louis-Dreyfus, which I don't agree with that. I kind of like I kind of got the wind knocked out of my sails with her. Like I thought she pivoted too much to comedy with Val, and like it's like, okay, reel it back in. This person's like some super secret black ops badass. I don't want to see goofy like I don't want to see Elaine Bennis playing this role. You know what I mean? And I love Elaine Bennis. I love Seinfeld.
Plenty of you guys have thoughts about one John Walker, so we'll hopefully get to your calls very soon. But first, we have to talk about the scene with Isaiah Bradley, who we first see in this episode hearing Sam's speech, and then he has a meeting with Sam in the backyard before Sam brings him over to the Smithsonian, where they reveal a new exhibit dedicated to Isaiah Bradley. Nate Milton, what do you think of this arc conclusion for Isaiah Bradley?
Yeah. Loved it. And again, like there are things, if I wanted to get granular with the storytelling, there are things that I could nitpick on, but like everything that my brain is like, this doesn't quite fit or that doesn't quite fit. Like my heart is like, damn all that, man. Because I was emotional this whole time. When we get that conversation in the backyard where Isaiah, and I love that Isaiah doesn't just flip and like, you Captain America, baby. Like I love that Isaiah is still holding on to his experience and the pain and hurt, right, that forms his opinion of America. But he's like, you did good, Sam. I'm not, I still don't believe, he's like, you almost had me. I almost bought all that, but you did good. You ain't no Mandela or Martin or Malcolm. And so like, I just loved their interaction, man. Again, we can't say enough about how good Carl Lumbly has been in this series. And then when they go to the museum, like again, like here's the thing. I'm not a professional monument statue maker, and I know most of us in this room tonight aren't. So I don't know how long it takes in the logistics to get a gold statue made of somebody and put in the Smithsonian. But I don't give a damn about that, Wai Ting, because when I saw the tears in Carl Lumbly's eyes, and Sam Wilson is like, nobody is ever going to forget your struggle. And, I read a little bit of the plaque, and it's talking, it like was telling about Isaiah's story and the atrocities committed to him. And then you get the moment where Isaiah shakes Sam's hand and then just hugs him. And you see him just shaking from joy, but also there's like, I think a bit of relief, but also like that pain is still there. And like that's powerful, man. And so yeah, like you can nitpick the scene, but I thought everything involving Sam and Isaiah just worked so well. And I also like Eli with his little annoying self, because I dig like the interactions that we might be in store for between Patriot and Captain America. Because Eli just seems like a good kid, but he's that good kid that just gets on your last damn nerve. So I'm interested to see how that relationship is going forward.
WH?
I think what happened with the statue was that Sam made another phone call to call Wakanda and said, hey, yo, Sherry, you got some fucking machine that can make a bronze statue in like a day? And she's like, does a bear shit in the woods? Yeah. What do you need it by? And then like Dora Milaje delivered it in one of the Wakandan talent fighters, like, because those things are like supersonic. So that's my theory. We just didn't see the phone call.
It's a vibranium statue?
No, it's bronze. It's bronze, but like Shuri has a machine that can make one in like, in a day.
I like that headcanon.
Buy that, yeah.
Hey, my headcanon is better than a lot of shit you see on fucking television. Let me tell you, okay. I loved it. Like for me, like the character of Isaiah Bradley, what I love about this incarnation and the incarnation that exists in the Truth comic book series that his story is based on, is that it's based on the real life story of the Tuskegee Airmen, which is like one of the most horrific things in the history of what the United States government did to African American people, and especially its own military did to its own soldiers. It's just absolute, shocker. It's just pathetic and sad, like that exists, and that they covered it up so much, and it only came out like I don't remember when the actual story broke about the Tuskegee Airmen, but like that's that Carl Lumley portrays that, I think, that aspect, that shame and that anger, like that rightfully so, and probably many like African American people would feel towards the United States government and the military in Isaiah Bradley. And like I just think that the writers of this show and in how it was portrayed in the comics was like did that story justice to me, like as an outside observer, not as an African American person obviously, but like as someone who cares, who has empathy to the like how history treats like non-white people in North America, especially, and maybe more so in America than in Canada. But like I feel empathy towards that story, and so like I thought the Isaiah Bradley story in this show did that justice. And so I thought this is one of the characters whose story arc I thought stuck. It landed very, I don't know, not 100% perfectly, but like 98% perfectly for me.
I completely agree with both of you. I think the emotional heart of this entire series rests completely on Isaiah Bradley's relationship with Sam Wilson, and I think it is the balls of this really like series, to be able to dive into subjects like they have dove into with Isaiah Bradley and Truth, and just hitting on the themes that they have. I think everything that he was involved in, to me, landed very well. I liked the resolution with the Smithsonian. I will say I do wish, and maybe this is another result of the lack of time they had in this final episode.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't Isaiah want to be left presumed dead? Like,
Yeah.
in his speech, he said, "Leave me dead. My name is buried. You don't think I would be dead in a day if you brought me out?" And I understand if Sam is here to prove to Isaiah, hey, the world, it's a different world. We can accept you right now. I think we needed to see that a little bit. We need to see the government apologize to Isaiah Bradley to show that the world at large is accepting of Isaiah Bradley. This comes across, it's almost like, surprise, everybody knows about you, even said on the plaque.
Like the Marvel cap and sunglasses disguise.
Sure, like this said on the plaque, Isaiah's death was falsified. I'm like, Sam, you just outed the man out. Didn't tell him. But
David E. Kelly, not Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah, like again, like when I saw that way, it's like it just doesn't add up. But again, like the emotion was so strong, I was like, you know what, we'll figure it out later.
This is a nitpick, I suppose, and maybe it is more as a result of time. And I hope to see a whole lot more.
And real quick, because I wanted to make sure I got the exact dates right, but what WH was talking about, the Tuskegee experiment, the syphilis study, went from 1932 to 1972. So like that's like a lot of people listening, like your parents, you know what I mean? Like they were in their prime when this was going on. So it's not like this was something so long ago in our history. Like it still resonates today. So I am glad that they, even if there was some things we could nitpick on, Way, like I am glad that they included the character of Isaiah in this story, because I don't think you get the resonant moments we get with Sam Wilson without Isaiah.
Where do you guys think we will see some of these characters turn up next? Of course, in the time that we just saw the final episode, Deadline and I believe The Hollywood Reporter announced that there will be a Captain America 4 movie with Malcolm Spellman writing it. And of course, this is where we see Captain America. We'll expect him to turn up. But some of these other characters, where do you think we will see them spin off to? We have a number of Disney Plus shows coming up. We have a number of franchises really in the works. So, WH, any thoughts about where we might see some of these people show up next?
I gotta imagine Zemo's gonna be a big part of the Cat 4 movie. Like he's to me the natural, like get to be not, if not the antagonist, not the villain, but the antagonist of the film, but then at least a big part of it. And I would imagine like, that's where Bucky shows up as well. Sharon, I don't know. I can see her becoming more kind of like this character that runs through different properties that, she's the power broker now. So it's like she's being set up to be like this kind of, kind of, I suppose supplier of weapons to different, villains or antagonists throughout the Marvel universe. Who knows? Like, but I don't know if like you can do her story justice in like a movie. Like I would want to see it played out over a long period of time, maybe. For I guess who else do we have? Isaiah Bradley. He's got to be part of Cat 4 for sure. I think he has to be like Sam's like guy that he goes to for advice and shit, right? So like that's to me where this character of Isaiah goes. Like as far as like some of the more minor characters, John Walker, I think everyone's pegging him to be part of like this rumored. I don't know, like there's been any confirmation about a Thunderbolts thing, and like Zemo and him are going to be part of that maybe in the future. Like that seems like rumors that are going around, and maybe like some wishful thinking on people's part. Like, but I don't know where you put John Walker, except maybe in his own series. To be honest with you, like I think he would benefit. Like his character would benefit from being explored more closely on him, and like what he could possibly represent as like this darker side of how America enacts foreign policy across the world. Like he'd be a perfect character for that. Other than that, like, yeah, I don't know. Like to me, like Cap 4 has got to be Sam and Bucky together in that. And I think Zemo's got to be in that. Isaiah Bradley's got to be in that. Like the Eli character, like I'm starting to think that, as we go along, as we get by the time we get to the Hawkeye series, which is going to feature the character of Kate Bishop, we're going to get the seeds for the Young Avengers. So I'm very excited about that. So, yeah, I got to say, like, I'm more excited about, the Disney Plus side of the MCU than the films right now. I mean, we could talk about, I guess, the trailer that dropped a little later on, but nothing gets me more excited about like than thinking about, oh, what shows next on Disney Plus? Not only because I get to talk about it with you, Wei, and Nate sometimes as well, but like this is where I think the development and the biggest like, like kind of, I don't know, like long-term development of the MCU going forward is going to be happening in.
How about you, Nate? Any thoughts?
I mean, I'm already excited for Cap 4, man. Because honestly, Wei, I think I would have felt some type of way if not that I didn't enjoy a lot of what we got with Falcon the Winter Soldier, but I would have felt some type of way if Sam didn't get his movie. So I'm glad like Feige don't miss a beat, man. Feige knew he's like coming off the finale, bam, 2 hours later, we got you covered. So I think obviously we'll see Sam, we'll probably see Elijah and Isaiah. Bucky will probably be in there. It wouldn't surprise me if, again, sticking with Sam, other than Cap 4, like it wouldn't surprise me if he had some type of involvement with Young Avengers. Maybe, kind of like almost like a Nick Fury role. Because I could see Sam being somebody that just kind of pops in here and there. Because we know Anthony Mackie is not going to miss an opportunity for Disney to cut that check. I think when we look at Zemo and Walker, yeah, you could do spinoffs with each of them, but I think Thunderbolts, if that does become a reality, that's probably the most likely destination. Bucky on his own, like I would love it if the Wakanda series it becomes a reality, or when it becomes a reality, because I guess they've already announced it.
Yeah, Ryan Coogler's production company.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would love to see Bucky show up on that series. Maybe not being one of the main characters, but at least we get an episode or two with Bucky going back to Wakanda. Sharon, I don't know where the hell we put Sharon Carter. Like she could show up in Armor Wars because that's a show all about this technology and these weapons, and so I could see Sharon maybe fitting in with that.
You can almost pepper Sharon anywhere. Like anytime you need sort of like the reverse of who's the guy in Daredevil who supplied like the outfits, the costumes. What was his name?
Melvin Potter?
Yeah.
The guy who created Daredevil's costume?
Yeah, like
That's Melvin
whatever.
Potter. Yeah.
Okay, well, whoever like creates costumes for like the good guys, you can have an opposing bad guy, who just
Mhm.
mysteriously supplies, weapons. So anyway, that's maybe some of the discussion about what's going on in the future. Before we move on to your phone calls, and we invite everybody to raise your hands right now if you have thoughts. I know many of you do. What did you guys think of the Shang-Chi trailer? Shang-Chi trailer. That's a bit of a mouthful. Nate, did you have a chance to watch it, and what do you think?
Yeah, I saw it. I thought it was dope. I think that, I hope my hope is, and I'm glad that we're able to talk about it tonight, because my hope is that you and WH have the same feeling when you see that in the theaters that I did when Black Panther came out. Because that was an indescribable feeling. Well, the second time I saw Black Panther, because the first time I saw it, I was nervous as hell. We talked about that before, Wade. Like I was like, if this is a flop, I don't know how I'm gonna react, because I'm not gonna be out here bad mouthing the first black superhero in this MCU with his own movie. But I thought the action looked good. Like I'm a mark for Aquafina, so anytime you can throw her in a project, you're gonna get a smile out of me. I am intrigued, with the whole Ten Rings story. So yeah, I'm excited. I think Simu Liu is a really good fit for this role, because I think he's got those looks, but he like the scene on the bus where he does like the double punch, double kick. I'm like, yeah, that's my guy now.
WH?
I'm gonna temper my comments with the idea that this is not the Shang-Chi that I grew up with in the Master of Kung Fu comic books, and it can't be, because that character can't exist in 2021, like the way it was introduced in the 1970s.
Explain.
It's very much a caricature, because it's meant to play off of like the kung fu craze that was happening in films at the time. So, and he's written and drawn by two white men. So, I like them, but I go back now, I reread those, like, and I have all the omnibuses of Master of Kung Fu, and I reread these stories. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this shit's racist.
Like, what were some of the racist things that you would see?
Well, for one thing, his father is Fu Manchu. Literally, he's fucking Fu Manchu. They licensed the Sax Romer character, and Sax Romer is a fucking racist, and Fu Manchu is a total racist yellow peril character, right? And this series didn't shy away from like depictions of Fu Manchu as the yellow peril, like the Oriental mastermind who wants to destroy Western civilization. And then Shang-Chi spoke like he was reading fucking fortune cookies and all that shit that goes with it.
And just to stop you right there, and the Mandarin in the comics is a totally different character outside of the Shang-Chi.
He doesn't have any relation with Shang-Chi. He's an Iron Man character.
Yet
right?
That was also a pretty problematic character in his own right. And now they decided to merge the two problematic characters into an unproblematic character. So two wrongs kind of make it right.
Include the Yellow Claw in this shit. You know what I'm saying? That's talking about a racist fucking character. It's in his name, the Yellow Claw. Anyways, I still like there's a run of Shang-Chi, written by Doug Monich and drawn by Puck Lacey. That's fucking awesome, and I became a huge fan from that point on, because then Shang-Chi pivots to becoming a super spy, because he works for MI6 and he's fighting his father and other villains that are very James Bond like. So it kind of pivots away from the kung fu part of it and becomes more like James Bond, which I really dug. But he's still like the baddest. He's a badass. Like I would venture to say he's probably the most skilled unarmed combatant in the Marvel universe in the comics, even more so than even like Daredevil, Captain America, or even Iron Fist. Like they pretty much posit recently in his recent appearances the last 10 years that like he could beat the shit out of all of them if he wanted to, but he doesn't, because he's a good guy. So I'm excited. Hey, Simu Liu, he's Asian dude from Toronto. What's not there for me to get behind? You know what I'm saying, Wei? You know what I'm saying. Anyways, I'm excited. The whole cast, Tony Leung's in this. I fucking love Tony Leung. That guy's in like Hard Boiled and Bullet in the Head and Chungking Express and all these other Wong Kar-wai movies. Fuck, I love that guy. I'm so excited. I'm excited that they're gonna get this idea of the Mandarin with the 10 rings, like the ring Mandarin, right? If they're gonna do that, because I do believe Ben Kingsley's in this film, right? I think they're gonna resolve this. I think I saw that on IMDb, so that they're gonna kind of fix that mistake that they made in the third Iron Man film, and go with this idea that the Mandarin's actually Asian, and like they're gonna play up this whole, and maybe he's gonna have the 10 rings. I don't know, but like I like the idea that they named this, organized this group, this like terrorist group, the 10 rings. Oh, that's how you're gonna get away from like these aliens are from a dead alien dragon that the Mandarin found. Anyways, I'm just rambling at this point, but I'm very, very excited about this. And I don't know if I got the same feeling as you did, Nate, when you saw the Black Panther trailer. Listen, I got probably maybe a different kind of, but like on a similar excitement level as you did when I saw the Black Panther trailer, because I loved his appearance in Civil War. He's been one of my favorite characters for like the last 30 years. So like, and I think I love Black Panther more than I love Shang-Chi. But like, I'm very excited because if this movie is successful, then it just means more representation. Mm-hmm. And there was a tweet I saw of this mother filming her son, who's like, looks like he's like 5, 6, 7. And she says, he's watched this on loop like all day. Like, and he turns around, it's a young Asian boy, because representation matters. And I'm more excited for those kids than I am necessarily for myself.
Just going back to what Nate said, about, asking how we felt, or how I felt about it. I think I'm always extremely critical of any sort of representation of where I might see myself, especially when it comes to Asian men portrayed in media, because there's so few of us. I put a lot of pressure on this being perfect and being not embarrassing. And I can certainly say after watching it, I was really excited. They're putting a ton of money into this, so I think we know the action looks tremendous. In terms of comedy, they've got some very funny people in there, and Awkwafina and Ronnie Cheng, who I'm really excited for the world to be, like Ronnie Cheng especially, to be exposed to. I think story-wise, they're not going to fuck around, and they're going to put their best resources into it. What I was maybe even a bit more surprised by, and happily surprised by, is the fact that what we are going to see is not necessarily a stereotypical martial arts, like this person trained, really hard and then came back with these mystical powers. They are adding the element of Asian American identity into this by saying that this is a story of somebody who was born in the East, migrated to the West, and now has to kind of like resolve that conflict between a father who wants him to move back and a Western culture that he is very much, I think, gravitated himself to. That's like a story like of myself and everybody that we know. So I'm really interested to see how Disney and Marvel portrays that on a big screen to a wider audience. So those are some of our thoughts. Thank you, everybody, for being incredibly patient. We are going to get to your phone calls right now, and let's start off here with Nick, you're on the line. What did you think of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or any other MCU topic you want to talk about?
What is going on, guys? Thank you guys for doing all this. I didn't also expect to go into the Shang-Chi trailer. That's awesome. I didn't expect you guys to talk about that. I'm super excited for that movie. That trailer is bananas. I'm really ready to go, and I think that might be like a good first movie to go back and see in theaters too, if that's a possibility. So we'll see how it all looks in that time. Fingers crossed. I am mostly in agreement with you guys. I don't think this finale hit the heights of episode 5 or episode 2, which I think were the most complete episodes, and I think some of the best work that the MCU has actually produced. There were sort of Saturday morning cartoon vibes from this finale, particularly at the beginning. And I think, to quote Doctor Strange in Avengers Infinity War, my question for these Disney Plus shows going forward is, what master do you serve? Are you serving, the Disney Plus content universe and creating more content going forward, or are these shows going to serve the development of movies farther along? Because I guess when I heard Captain America 4 was announced yesterday, I was like, okay, that either means one of two things. Either this has been in production for a while and we haven't heard about it, or, and I think this is also could be true, Falcon and the Winter Soldier has greatly overperformed the numbers that I think Marvel was anticipating for this show. And I wonder if they're going to fast track this movie to, maybe like a 2023 release date. So I think it's kind of interesting. I think these Disney Plus MCUs are in an interesting place because I think WandaVision was a little bit more insular when we thought it was going to be a little more expansive, and I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier was very expansive when I kind of expected it to be a 6-part insular story. So I think it's kind of fascinating to see where we go from here with these Disney Plus shows.
Thank you for your comment.
I think,
course.
when you talk about like the economics of it, way, like we know Mickey's about his paper, we know Mickey's about his bag, and so like at the end of the day, these are commercial properties. You just hope that we're not sacrificing quality in the name of quantity, because we know Disney knows as soon as they put something Marvel on, people are gonna watch it. And so yeah, like I'm hoping that these things, like obviously they have to serve that corporate dollar, but I'm hoping that they're more than just commercials for the next big movie. And I would say, even though we got the announcement of Falcon Captain America 4, I think this was more than a commercial for that movie, because I don't think all of the stuff with Isaiah, like we're not getting that if this was just a commercial.
I'm really curious to see how they'll maybe recap everything that we've gone through with Sam Wilson when that movie comes along. Doctor Strange, I could see very much like not really recapping WandaVision so much at all. It's just like, okay, Wanda's in this. She's got a lot of powers now in a different outfit. But Sam Wilson's development as Captain America, I think, is almost like there was so much material there that can they just jump into another like action movie as him as Sam Wilson? Because I'm assuming a large part of the world might not have watched this in comparison to who will see the Captain America. I wonder. But we don't exactly know what that relationship is like right now between the two. Let's go back to the phone lines, and we go to Chicago and Scrump. Thank you for joining us, Scrump. What's going on?
Hello, gentlemen. First things first, I gotta say shout out brother Nate. The last time we were on a call together was the Up Next Rumble, and we were enemies then by virtue of the match stipulation. But very happy to see him. I've enjoyed him on this show. First, I wanted to kind of just talk about how you guys were mentioned representation. As like a Mexican Marvel fan, the only representation I have is Michael Peña's overtly racist portrayal of like Lewis and Ant-Man. So I've like Black Panther to me, King T'Challa, that's kind of who I look at. And watching the Shang-Chi trailer, I was like, awesome, another non white man that I can like kind of see a bit of myself in. So I'm very excited. And as WH said, if it's a hit, then just, hey, more representation. But kind of with the show, I thought this episode was fine. Like, as everyone's kind of said, a little corny at points. But I think my problem kind of came with like with WandaVision, it was 9 episodes, but the episodes themselves were a little too short. And with this, it was 6 episodes and they were an hour long. So now I'm just kind of curious, like what will be the situation with Loki? Because it's almost kind of like a Goldilocks thing, you have going on where one's too short and then one's not long enough. So I just kind of wanted to think wanted to ask you guys, like, what do you think would be the right situation for like this Loki show? Do we get, 9 45-minute, like long episodes, or is it like what do you guys prefer? Kind of just because like I know with me personally, like I much rather just give me as much content as you can. And obviously they can't do, an HBO style, here's 15 episodes, each an hour long. But like I think if they could perfect just like 8 solid like hour-long episodes, that would kind of be the perfect formula going forward with like all the other Marvel shows.
I think, for me, like I don't think the WandaVision episodes were too short, because like I think the early ones are meant to emulate half-hour sitcoms. That's why they're half an hour themselves. And then we get to the longer episodes as like we move into like where it becomes more an MCU property. I thought the length of the Falcon Winter Soldier episodes were fine, and I would imagine that that's the standard that they're going to go with. Like, depending on the story they want to tell for each episode, they might make them a little bit longer or maybe a little bit shorter. I think you're going to see in the 45-minute to 60-minute range for each episode of Loki going forward. And maybe like, I don't know, like what if would be the one I'm curious about. because that one I can see being like half an hour, because they're telling like these animated stories like of like, you know, like alternate realities and stuff like that. So I would think Loki is going to be a full length television show for each episode. Like, and to me, the scope of what looks like in the trailer for Loki suggests to me like we're going to get like something that's going to be a pretty long episode. Like to me, it's like the Marvel equivalent of like a Doctor Who episode, and you need like a full hour for Doctor Who episode, in my opinion, right? So I think that's my theory about what we're gonna get with Loki, and I'm very excited about it. And so like I like the idea, like you suit the format of each show to tell the story you want to tell. And with WandaVision, that was to tell a story of like one, and not only Wanda's, you know, growth from like her personal trauma, but it was a love letter to American sitcoms of, you know, the 50s, 60s, and 70s and 80s, and they're all half an hour long. So
yeah, and I think you just hit on the major point right there, WH. Instead of having a format that we fit these shows in, make the format fit the story that these creators are trying to tell, right? Because I don't want Disney to get into that trap that Netflix Marvel did, right? Where every show has to be 13 episodes, even though the story does not warrant 13 episodes. And every series, even Daredevil and Luke Cage, which I loved, had 2 or 3 episodes where you're like, like we could have done without that. So like, I think, you know, for Falcon the Winter Soldier, to me, and again, this is maybe stuff dealing with COVID, but it almost felt like they knew they had 6 episodes and tried to tell like an 8-episode story in 6 episodes. And I don't think that works. So I think maybe going forward, like tell a story. And if that story is 4 episodes, great. If that story is 9 episodes, cool. But I think we need them to tell a complete story and not feel like they either have to stretch, you know, way to fill a quota, or they're, you know, cutting things out like they did in this finale so that we can fit into that 6-episode structure.
TV is a really interesting format because they have to like have a holy shit moment at the end of every single episode.
Yep.
And you know, it almost feels like a unwillingness to resolve any of them until the final episode. And I feel like that's kind of what we found with these first 2 Disney Plus series, with WandaVision and you know, Captain America, or Falcon. I mean, it's that up until the season finale, we have so many dangling threads that by the time the finale got here, it either felt rushed or maybe, you know, in WandaVision's, you know, case, maybe even incomplete. So I'm very curious to see how Loki deals with it. I also wonder if like any sort of COVID restrictions will be impacting that production now that, you know, things are a bit later. So I have high hopes for it, though. Thank you very much, Crump. Much appreciated.
Take care.
Oops. Sorry to cut you off. Let's go to Alex Francois. Alex, are you there?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, doing well.
Oh, brother.
What's up, man?
Yeah, man, cheers for taking my call. There's not many other people to talk MCU with at this time in the morning. Yeah, so
Where are you calling
thanks
from?
for that. I'm in Scotland,
Scotland. All right.
in Edinburgh. So yeah, the only other option was I could wake my wife up and ask her if she wanted to dissect the MCU some more, but I think that would be game over. So thought I'd chat with you guys instead. So like, yeah, when it comes to entertainment, I always like to think like positively and like, was it worth the time and money? Like, did it make me feel something? And like with Wins, the finale, like the whole show's been great and the whole MCU's been great. And I did think coming out of Endgame, like maybe my MCU was done. It was wrapped up, like perfect end to the story, perfect beginning, middle, end, everything like that. But it's really good to see that WandaVision was amazing. And even though like the finale of Winter Soldier wasn't the best, it's still, you know, when that Captain America and Winter Soldier came up at the end, I was like, oh yeah, okay, you know, it's made me feel something that was worth my time. Keep my money, Disney, that kind of thing. And that, but when it comes to finales on Disney Plus, though, this is the question for you guys. Do you think the season 2 Mandalorian finale is kind of really hurt Disney Plus originals after, you know, the Mark Hamill surprise, and now everyone expecting something in WandaVision, and even rumors on the cameos and of what was going to be in Winter Soldier, was Steve Rogers going to appear? Do you guys think that's made it tough for future seasons of other shows?
I definitely think like I think WandaVision was kind of hurt by itself in like, you know, Paul Bettany like with his I think the joke was great. Like the troll job was fantastic, and I think I would have been tempted to make the same one if I was in his exact same position. So I don't even disrespect that, but yeah, perhaps because like whatever it was that led people to believe that a Mark Hamill level cameo was set to be in WandaVision, ultimately I think that did hurt it. This was another series where they teased the cameo. We later found out it was Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and I think that was a pretty satisfying reveal. That I did not hear that same sort of like buzz towards the finale, and so I don't think people were disappointed that there weren't any special cameos. In fact, the one that they did deliver, I thought was somewhat substantial. What about you, Nate?
I think the JLD cameo didn't really bother me in terms of like the hype level, but I do think they could fall into a trap, and it's not it's wrestling. We're all wrestling fans here. It's we got a surprise mystery opponent. And you can only go to the mystery opponent bag but so many times. AEW kind of fell into that trap with Christian and with some of these other former WWE guys, and it's like the law of diminishing returns. But I think if your story's good enough, then it should be able to stand on its own 2 feet. And back to the point that you brought up, man, like this was one of the few times, like maybe the only time in my life that I've ever had literal tears in my eyes at a title card, Wai Ting. Because, the whole episode, we're going through the Sam stuff. And again, even though the speech was a little schoolhouse rock, I felt something in my soul. And then we get the Elijah stuff. And then we get the Bucky Nakajima stuff. And we get the Isaiah stuff and the Bucky Nakajima stuff. And so like the whole second half of the episode, I'm like Bucky. Back in that cold open where he's in Wakanda and he's trying to fight that programming way. He don't want to let it get to him. And I thought I made it, but then we go to the cookout and the last thing, they switched the title from Falcon the Winter Soldier to Captain America and the Winter Soldier. And I was like, damn it, Feige, you got me. And I'm just sitting here crying at words, Way. And so like, I think when these shows are at their best, as much as we can talk about their faults, they move you, right? They make you feel something. And, they're not just hour-long commercials for the next movie. And so when it comes to like the surprises, I think the surprises are fine. But honestly, I think I would have rather not known about Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I think if that were like a legit surprise to me, that would have been even cooler than, hey, there's somebody here in this episode because, I'm looking the whole episode like, who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? But if I don't have that knowledge, then it's just like, oh, cool. Julia Louis-Dreyfus is here. So I think maybe there is something to let's keep that secret in our back pocket and just surprise people.
Thank you very much for the call, Alex. Much appreciated. Thank you for listening. Let's go to Shane McDonough. Shane, are you there?
Hey.
What's going on, Shane?
Not much. How's it going, everybody? I'm wearing my AEW shirt for WH, just for you, WH. I wanted to say I did predict that the power broker was Sharon back in episode 3, but I'm not going to take a victory lap because I thought that was pretty disappointing. So just wanted to point it out. I would have much rather had like an out of left field villain revealed at the end, but maybe next time. That senator was pretty shady. He was involved in like everything.
By the way,
yeah,
he was never named.
Yeah,
his name could be fucking Del Russ. So all you people, especially in the Up Next Facebook chat, go fuck yourself. Fucking list that comment.
That's the big hook for Captain America 4. We get Del Rusk revealed.
We're gonna. I've taken names. John Cena's at the top of that list, but like some of these other people, you're on the list. You don't know you're on the list, so I let you know you're on the list. Anyways,
I hope you're vindicated.
I'm sorry.
I hope you're vindicated with Captain America 4. I hope it's revealed that he's Del Rusk. One thing I did want to say is I thought Sam's speech was good. I think what made it a little cheesy for me wasn't the delivery or the crowd like filming it on their phones. I thought it was that like right after that, the remaining Flag Smashers were killed, and then you hear on the radio when Zemo's on the raft, like also the GRC decided they're gonna not do the evil thing they were gonna do. So that whole thing is taken care of. Don't worry about it. We're all good. So I just really hope they don't drop all the, I don't know, like all the repercussions of the blip, because I thought that was something that they kind of touched on in the show, but then it seems like at the end they trying to just wrap it up and like, oh, everything's good now. So I hope that is something they continue to explore.
Like, let's maybe talk about that a little bit, because like, what exactly are they, what are they trying to say here? Okay, so we have these people that were displaced because of the blip. People have moved into their homes, and now the blip people have come back, and so we got to push the people that moved in the 5 years out. And so Sam is fighting against it. I mean, Carly and then Sam by extension is fighting against it. He successfully delays it, but what happens now? The problem still exists, and we hear from the senator that the problem is bigger than you can know, Sam. And Sam's argument is that you guys seem like you are we don't have enough voices, to speak for those people. And I suppose to that end, like, he was successful because he managed to stop it. Now, is that it? Is that enough resolution for you guys to this issue?
No, I don't think this is the end of it. I think, honestly, as moving in a way as Sam's words were, the only reason I think they made that decision, Shane, is that the senators got caught on 4K, right? Like, because Sam did it on live TV. That's the only reason that they capitulated on this. But they didn't disband the GRC, like they didn't cease operations. So I think they're gonna continue to be a part of this world. And I don't trust any of them. Like, I don't trust maybe Del Rusk. The only one I trust is Isla. And maybe I shouldn't even trust Isla, but I believe that Isla would not lie to Sam in his face. So I trust that Isla is going to be good. But yeah, like, power doesn't give up power willingly. And so I think that this was just kind of something to probably appease Sam and appease the people watching on TV. But yeah, like they're going to be up to some shady stuff.
I feel like the GRC is like the new Hydra of the MCU.
Wow.
They're clearly like doing things for their own benefit, like for political power and like what they think will gain them more influence. Like, I wouldn't be surprised in later projects we see like a company like in the Marvel universe called Roxxon like goes to the Del Rusk, leader of the GRC, and says, here's all this money, thanks for like pushing through this agenda for us, with displacing people here and there. Here's all this money. Or like other corporations or other nation states like using the GRC. Like, I can see GRC, to me, the GRC were definitely the big bad guys of the show in many ways, more than Zima was, more than Carly was. And I hope we get more GRC in future projects, like especially the socio-political kind of aspects of the Marvel universe, which we see definitely within the Captain America side of things. If we ever get something akin to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. again, or something featuring S.H.I.E.L.D., maybe GRC can reappear in that. Because I don't think this can like be solved by like one simple speech by Sam. Like, and I think that this problem that exists, which it reflects a real problem that we have in our world, with like the displacement of like tons of Middle Eastern refugees leaving their war-torn countries and flooding into Europe, and then creating this whole refugee crisis like that the media is portrayed it as, is very real, and that hasn't been solved either. So and I like when television properties, especially like commercial television properties that are meant to entertain you, like try to talk about real things in a palpable manner that people will watch. It's like, well, what's that based on? I'm going to go research this more. And like, I hope that's what happens with the idea of the GRC.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, as much as we can kind of nitpick about, maybe how far they went way or how substantive it was, like the fact that we getting this on Mickey's channel, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a Disney show at the end of the day. And we talked about race. We talked about, the military industrial complex. We talked about, global issues. And like, yeah, obviously they didn't get super deep into it, because you're not going to get super deep into it in a 45-minute action show. But the fact that they at least brought these things up, I think, that's a good thing for them, because it pushes the MCU forward. And so, yeah, like I thought, Shane, to your question, like, yeah, this isn't going to be it, because I don't think you make the GRC in this series just to abandon them and move on to something else later.
I hope so. Yeah. Anyway, great job on the show, guys. And I'll miss you guys. We had a little break till Loki, so can't wait for that.
Thank you, Shane. Talk to you soon. Let's go up next to Muggin. Muggin, are you there?
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Muggin, what's going on?
Oh,
Good. I mean, a lot. I have the finale has. I have a lot of thoughts about the finale. I mean, yes, I do agree that there were some things that fell short in. I mean, I do love how it realized, Sam's arc. I do love how they build him and make him the new Captain America. Walker's redemption in the third act feels a little forced because we spent like 5 episodes wanting to detest this man, but having flipping at the very end feels a little forced. The post-credit scene, I mean, I have a lot of things about the post-credit scene with Sharon on the phone with some unknown assailant or something. Do you think it's setting up Secret Invasion? Because I feel like in the space between Civil War and Falcon and Winter Soldier, I feel like maybe like the real Sharon has been abducted, because I feel like it's setting up Secret Invasion in a way.
Go ahead. I was waiting for somebody to bring up the Sharon as a Skrull theory.
I mean, Skrulls are now a thing now, so it's like, I mean, it's a possibility that this Sharon that got pardoned in the courtroom is a Skrull. What do you guys think?
It's possible. It's possible for anybody in the MCU. John Walker could be a Skrull. Sam could be a Skrull. Listen, I definitely agree that it's a possibility, but I just think that would be so lazy. I think anytime there's like some poorly written character to say, hey, it's a Skrull, she wasn't really that person, I think they could get away with it once, and they already did when they did Nick Fury in No Way Home. Like that was not the Nick Fury we're used to, and I think most people could tell throughout it.
Right.
And by the time they got to the end, it made complete sense. Can they keep doing it? How many times can they do it? The series does call for something like that, but I feel like that would be too much of a erasing of like everything that Sharon had gone through to just like explain that she was a Skrull.
That's interesting. Yeah. Sorry, WH. Go on.
No, that'd be cheap. I wouldn't want that to happen. And like, to me, like they've announced Secret Invasion, right? So like,
yep.
That's fine. Like it's not one of my favorite comic book stories, like of the time, of the era, of all these crossovers that were happening in the Marvel comics. Like you had like Civil War, Secret Invasion, and Siege, and all these things. But like, hey, you know what I want to see them announce? Fucking Annihilation. The cosmic crossover that was like the best the Secret Invasion. If you haven't read it, go read Annihilation.
I'll give that a look, WH. Thank you. I feel like, with Sam.
Quick, I just wanted to say, like, I had a conversation about this with Brent Chittenden in front of the program last night, and Brent was all in, or at least excited, for the Sharon is a Skrull theory. And I was like, yeah, they could do that, but to me, much to what Wai and WH are saying, like, I think there's some dramatic weight to the fact that, like, to Sam, to Captain America, like, Sharon is still a good person. Sharon is still an ally. Because I'm surprised Carly didn't whisper right when she was dying instead of, I'm sorry, like, by the way, Sharon's the power broker. Oh, I'm dead. But like, I think that there's some weight to the fact that Sam sees this person as a friend and somebody he trusts, and you can play a lot of interesting angles off of that. So it could be, like, anything's possible now, Muggin. Like, the forbidden door has been kicked down, but I think I would prefer if this Sharon is actually Sharon.
And just a note on Secret Invasion, Emilia Clarke has been announced this week for a cast. So it's a very star-studded cast for a Disney Plus show with Sam Jackson and everybody else returning. So we look forward to that. Thank you so much, Morgan, for the call. Let's go up next to Professor Kevin. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Wai, thanks for taking my call. I have an alternate theory about Sharon Carter. Perhaps, like Vince McMahon, she likes to pretend she's talking to someone on the phone when she's not actually talking to that person on the phone. It's like a Roddy Piper situation.
Oh my God, that clip.
Hey, pal, I'm the power broker.
No, I did want to ask you guys though, because I don't know if this was the fault of the writing, but I'm not convinced that Sharon is the power broker, even though, like, within the context of the series, that's the only thing that really makes sense. Mm-hmm. But I was wondering, maybe is she on the phone with the actual power broker, and she's just sort of the acting as the face of the power broker, or the contact that's in Madripoor, and maybe this is kind of me. Like I really want the Del Rusk thing to be true, just because.
It's because you're a smart man, Kevin.
Yeah. No, like WH, like throughout all these episodes, you've completely convinced me on this. I have no experience with the comics, so like everything that I have about Del Rusk is just from WH. So like WH has totally convinced me Del Rusk is real, and that. So when I saw that end credit scene, I'm thinking, okay, maybe that's who she's on the phone with. But what do you guys think of that?
I think if she's a triple agent, like she's pretending to work for the power broker, be the power broker, so she can expose the power behind the power broker. That's awesome. Like that would make me feel better about her story arc, and not just I hate America now, so I'm gonna start selling weapons and steal all their secrets. That doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't fit what we saw in Winter Soldier and what we saw a lot of in Civil War. That doesn't fit the character that I saw there. I don't want her to be a Skrull. I truly believe, like one of the greatest things that all shtick aside, like I think bringing back the Red Skull as a villain in 2021 would make so much sense. Honestly, like. Think about what he represents and all the shit that's going on in the world. You can't think of a better villain than the Red Skull in 2021, 2022, whatever, going forward. So yeah, I hope Del Rusk is a theory, not because like it's my shtick, it's my fucking gimmick or anything like that, because I think it would actually make sense, and it's true to what happens in a very famous comic book storyline in the Avengers. So like there you go. Because you know what I would want to see if Del Rusk does come into the Marvel Universe? There's a scene in that comic story with Del Rusk, the Red Skull revealed, where the Black Panther, he's going to beat the shit out of the Red Skull. You know what he does? He takes his gloves off first, because he's going to beat him with his bare black hands and not gloved black hands. You know what I'm saying? And that was like, yes, that would totally piss off the Red Skull. And I want to see that happen in an MCU property.
So how satisfying would it be if our new Captain America sort of played that role and just talk about flag smashing? How about some Red Skull smashing? I think
that would even be better. It would be more appropriate. But hey, I'll take, if it's Misty Knight, I'll fucking take that too. You know what I'm saying?
Well, see, that's the thing, Wade. Like I was trying to figure out, because
I'm not Wade, Nate.
I'm talking to Wade.
Oh, okay.
I'm a Skrull.
This isn't.
We're all Skrulls, WH.
No, this isn't 2 weeks ago when I was talking about your great dramatic performances, Wai Ting. But I think I was trying to figure out, because I'm like, they're gonna talk about race in Captain America 4, particularly with Spellman writing it. So I was like, how are they gonna, like, I don't want them just to make up some fake, racist dude for Sam to fight, but we don't need to make up a fake racist dude. We've got a real, actual, still fictional racist dude in the Red Skull that we can plop into that role. So I am now supporting you, even though you just yelled at me, WH. I am now on Team Del Rusk. I support the WH Park platform.
I will treat you to Cracker Barrel when that happens. As my way of making it up to you, sir.
It's a fresh matchup here. We're seeing, Sam's or what is it, Cap's tag team partner now facing the big bad. So I think it's cool, but I just think there's so much that you have to explain with the Red Skull. And man, like how did he get off the planet? How did he find his way back onto Earth? The fact that he's even on the planet, yeah, you could explain everything. Cosmic cube, everybody. Like it is whatever, but man, I do wonder if it would. I do wonder if it would like make things a little too cartoonish, and like when I think the series has been granted so much in reality, but of course it's a comic book film. They can explain anything away they want. Thank you so much, Kevin, for the call. Much appreciated. Let's go to Brian up next. Brian, what's going on?
Hey, good evening, guys. Great to talk to you. So the series overall really exceeded my expectations. It ended up being a lot more intriguing than I thought it would be going in, when I thought it was just going to be buddy action movie or buddy action series. And I really enjoyed the finale myself. I thought it largely stuck the landing thanks to Sam. And I didn't really feel anything corny about his speech. I thought it was a really strong performance by Anthony Mackie throughout this series and this episode. It did remind me, that speech reminded me a little bit of Diana's speech towards the end of Wonder Woman 84, when she's trying to like get everyone to reverse their wishes. except this was actually really well done compared to that. But I do have a general MCU question. I had a second one asking whether we'd see any other Seinfeld alumni in the MCU, but then I remembered that Putty showed up in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. towards one of the last seasons.
He should be Mephisto. He's
but,
already got the devil makeup. He should be Mephisto.
Perfect. Yeah, by way of New Jersey, yes. But my big question concerning the MCU, after Del Rusk, of course, what do you think we will see first? A series or movie starring Howard the Duck? I say that knowing that there was a Hulu series planned, but that was canceled. Or an on-screen appearance by Fin Fang Foom. Enough said. See you later.
I think Fin Fang Foom. I think he's gonna turn up in Shang-Chi. Like I think there's like they are teasing some sort of dragon like that's going to be involved, and WH, you'd be able to tell me how much better they'd be able to translate something that, yeah, it might be also very problematic, but the idea of like this, I guess, dragon. What do you think?
I love Fin Fang Foom. It's like he's like one of those characters that you use sparingly, but when you do, it's pretty awesome. Like he was used really well in this Iron Man story featuring the Mandarin. He's used really well. He's used really well in this Thor storyline where he fights Thor. Like he's a great character. Like I like the fact that he's called Fin Fang Foom. I love that's kind of a silly name, but like this character is not silly. It's like it's a really fearsome creature that like gives like a lot of trouble to like people like Thor and to Iron Man. And I think it's way better than like what are you gonna do with Howard the Duck? Like honestly, I never got Howard the Duck. I would take a look at these comics and I would like go through them and like, what's the point of Howard the Duck? I don't get Howard the Duck. It was a nice cameo in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Yeah. But what are you going to do with this character? Like, what's the purpose of, like, what master would Howard the Duck serve? Like, what would be the point of it? Tell me that and I'll give it a try. Personally, like, if you want me to get on board with, like, something obscure from the Marvel Universe, give me a good Cloak and Dagger TV show, because that would be fucking awesome if done well.
I think if you... Sorry, please go ahead, Nate.
I was just gonna say, like, I dug the Howard the Duck movie from the 80s, but yeah, give me like a big ass dragon fighting on screen all day, like 10 times out of 10. So yeah, like I'm all in with you, WH.
I could see them doing like, especially now that you have Disney Plus, like a very comedy based Howard the Duck series where you get cameos from the rest of the MCU to get them to flex their comedic muscles, like the Zdarsky run, which, very much like that. It was just a kind of like not Thanos, not like any sort of like real world big thing, but like something incredibly stupid and small, like, I don't know, fixing a coffee machine that time travels or something. Just, another side to maybe the MCU is maybe possible. Let's go up next to Hansi. Hansi, are you there?
Hansi,
what's going on, guys? Listen, I'm not the comic book expert, but because you have been reviewing it, I've been keeping up with it, so I decided to just give my thoughts, whatever. But you guys talk about representation. I can't wait. I mostly can't wait for how they do the Pakistani hero, like Captain Marvel. I'm wondering. I wonder how they're going to do that. And I mean, the hero's last name is Khan, so I don't know how credible she is in the comic book. But I'm actually looking forward to seeing that. As far as the episode goes, I gotta say, even though I was kind of let down by the last episode, because again, the other episode had like a real big high off of what was going on. I gotta say, overall though, man, I thought I enjoyed it way more than I thought it would. I thought it was just gonna be a cash grab, like, oh look, MCU characters, but I actually like that they analyze, because the MCU versus them really talk about race. Like that's been one of the criticism from critics who kind of analyze it, whatever. And I was like, yeah, this is pretty good, man. I actually I'm with Nate, man. I got kind of teary eyed when the speech where he goes, yeah, are you going to do something for the people? Or like, are you going to make these promises to the people that's going to affect? Or are you going to make those to other people that are like you? They can't do anything. That was like really, 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 really powerful. And before I go, I just want to say that if Disney Plus does a Val series, I would actually be down with that because I looked up her character because again I get curious over these things. So I look at the fandom pages, and she was like a triple agent, whatever. So she was with Shield, and she was also a part of something else before that, and she kind of invaded Hydra. So I would dig it if she actually got a series. And I'll leave you guys with that. Anyways, good review. Anytime WH and Nate are in here, I applaud. So thank you guys for your review. I'll take the answer off the air.
Thank you very much, Hansi.
Appreciate it, brother.
Much appreciated. Any thoughts on what Hansi talked about? Or did he say it all?
I think, well, first of all, like with Miss Marvel, like I'm excited for that, man. Like I think that's gonna be a really fun show. Not only with the representation, but let's be honest, like Marvel has been and so like the more interesting and different and compelling female characters we can throw up on the screen, like I'm here for it. Again, not as WH was kind of saying in regards to Shang-Chi, like not just for me, but for the younger generation, in particular my nieces, to be able to see a character like that. I think that's a cool thing. But yeah, I think when Hansi's talking about just the way they went for it in this series, and like again, WH they didn't always hit the target, but the fact that they went for it, I think I got to give them credit for that, man, because we haven't seen this a lot when it comes to these Marvel properties. Maybe like Black Panther, the original Captain America and the Winter Soldier, that was a little political, but for the most part, Marvel tries to be somewhat apolitical with a tinge of liberalism, but for the most part, we staying out of that thing. So for them to go for it in this series, I got to applaud the effort.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of like them creating shows like, Miss Marvel starring Kamala Khan as the main character. If it's different than what this was or what WandaVision was, like I like the fact that this show was different than WandaVision, tone and execution, right? And I hope Miss Marvel is different. I hope it serves to go out to an audience specifically geared towards a younger maybe female audience, and but we as men can enjoy it as well, because it'll be really smartly written and well acted, and like that's all I care about. And I'm not opposed to the idea of like what you're saying, Wai, about like a Howard the Duck show that's more fun and like kind of silly and stuff like that. That's cool. Like that's the master it's going to serve. Okay, that's fine. I can watch something like that. I like the diversity that we're seeing from Marvel and from Disney here, and I think it's so important. Like I think I think more television should take a cue from this and try to present these not just actors in TV shows, but like being the main characters of properties. I look back at something like what happened with two of the actors that were on the Hawaii Five-0, like remake, where they were going to get paid the same as their white counterparts, and they left. Good for them. And that show, as far as I was concerned, it was dead to me. That show didn't exist for me anymore. And I want to see more shows that show a diversity of experiences for people who look like me, for people who look like you, people who look like Kamala Khan, people who look like all kinds of different people, because I want to learn more about those stories,
Yes. Thank you very much for your call. Let's go to our final call of the night. And for this, we go to New Jersey. Brandon, are you there? Or are you asleep?
Hey,
I'm strong, Brandon.
It's always a gamble with him.
Wai, Nate, tremendous show tonight. Oh, and WH.
He's already started. Have you been dipping into your coquita that you owe me, motherfucker?
It's coquito, not chiquita, not coquita.
Well, how would I know? You never sent me a bottle.
Well, send me an address.
I told you, send it to my work. I'm not giving you my real address.
This ain't pay to play.
Oh boy. Yeah. Send it to Mike. Send it to Mike. He'll
Your
get it
boss,
eventually.
Mike. No, I just called in to praise you guys on the show that you've done the past few weeks. I enjoyed the knowledge. I'm a I like comic books and whatnot, but I'm not as versed as like, all of you guys. But I appreciate the knowledge and whatnot. And I just thought Falcon and the Winter Soldier was very good. What they dug into regarding what's going on now and with society and whatnot, and was a tremendous effort for what Marvel did, and I just would like more of that stuff because real shit's going on and it shouldn't be ignored. And that's all I got.
Wow.
Look, Wai, like hearing Brandon be serious, that's like watching Sam be serious in the suit. It's like, oh, how are we supposed to react?
You saw me nod, right? You saw the cutaway as I was going. Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah, you were John Walker nodding. Just...
And now I called in for my TNA thoughts. Okay.
Thank you.
I think.
Wait, Brandon, aren't you gonna make a comment? Oh, you're wearing plaid like John and Errol Hawani WH. Oh, it's just like if this was a Rewinder Raw or something.
It's a contractual obligation that you have to meet. You have to meet those demands. Wear the flannel, like Wai.
Not tonight.
And Wai, one more thing. I just want to say thank you guys again, and I love all of you guys. I'm out of here. Peace.
Thanks. Thanks, Brandon. He really wants me to say.
I'll see him in a secret chat group, actually. So I'm not gonna say bye. I'm gonna see him in like about an hour in that chat group.
I think he's trying to get us to say the L word back to him, and he's gonna have to keep trying. We are at the end of this series. We've really gone over time, so unfortunately, I apologize to everybody who left a comment in the forum. Please do check everybody's thoughts out. A lot of great calls, a lot of great responses, a lot of great discussion coming out of this series. So we're extremely grateful, and we hope that you guys will come back to join MCU later. June for Loki. Are you guys excited about Loki? Well, we kind of talked about it, so. And maybe we'll be back, for some sort of primer episode. But until then, I know next week they're probably going to do one of these assembled making of documentaries. Undecided. I haven't talked to you, WH, about whether or not we'll come back for anything like that yet. But stay tuned because we will maybe we'll take a bit of a break because I think that's much deserved too. But until then, where can people follow you, Nate Milton?
Well, first of all, man, just appreciate hanging out with you guys the last couple of weeks talking about this show. For all of the faults that we've had with the show and maybe the way things kind of ended up. I think, again, man, like these dudes went out in the middle of a damn pandemic and gave us, damn near movie quality programming for six straight weeks and talked about some heavy topics and gave us some good action and actually got me emotional, with the stuff with Sam Wilson and Isaiah Bradley. So if you can do all that, I wish the narrative were better and the storytelling was a little tighter. But I was happy, and I got it for the $12.99 I paid Disney anyway. So it's a win for me. But I appreciate you guys for having me on the show. Anybody that wants to hear more from me, you can check me out on Twitter at @8 MOZAIK. Of course, the Kings of Sport podcast. Myself and Marcus Vanderberg, we've been doing it since 2013. You can check us out talking sports, politics, wrestling, pop culture, a whole bunch of different things. We got a Patreon, patreon.com/the Kings of Sport, where, I also talk some MCU stuff, some political stuff. So, if y'all are interested in that, you can be like Anthony Mackie when I'm sure this series wrapped and just cut the check for the Kings of Sport Patreon. And also here at Post Wrestling, the Rocky Maivia Picture Show, which will be coming out. But here's the thing, Wai Ting. I got to be honest with our audience. So Rocky Maivia Picture Show was supposed to be out this morning, but I've had a crazy last couple of days. And this is actually the 5th show I've done today, Wai. So I did
5th show. Wow.
So I did a show at 11, 12, took a break, came back 2, 3, and now I'm doing a show with you guys tonight. So
wow, this is the main event.
Well, here's the thing, WH, my work just kept beating me down, and it was like, stay down, don't get up anymore. And I had to be like Sam, and I got one more show to do, and just look at my work and be like, no.
You're like Steve. I can do this all day.
I was kind of waiting for Sam to say that, and I'm kind of glad he didn't say it because it would have been a little too much like Steve. But yeah, so Rocky Maivia Picture Show, it'll be out shortly, soon, not tonight, but soon. So expect that. Myself and Brian Mann talking about The Rock's appearances hosting Saturday Night Live. That's our subject for this next episode. So it was really fun reconnecting with Brian. So check that out. Check out the Patreon. Again, thanks to Wai and WH and that man Del Rusk, wherever he is. And you can follow me again on Twitter at @8 MOZAIK.
Loved having your insight and your presence as always, Nate, on these shows. And I definitely want to hear more from you as part of this discussion a bit later on. But WH, where can people follow you? And more importantly, do you have any comic recommendations this week?
Oh yeah, so let me get that first. Well,
let me do the plug for him, okay? You can find him, everybody, on Twitter at WHPark9. On Instagram at WHPark9, the man is always tweeting out what he is putting in his body, and it is always delicious. Sometimes it's biscuits. Sometimes it's, the delicious sushi that you can get, perhaps with a man who you owe a debt of remorse to for past crimes. Any recommendations, WH Park?
Oh, okay. So what could I recommend but the Captain America, Sam Wilson Captain America comic book series that you can find as 5 trade paperback Captain America Sam Wilson Volume 1, Captain America Sam Wilson Volume 2 Standoff, Volume 3 Civil War 2, Volume 4 Take Back the Shield, which is probably the best one of the trade paperbacks. And Volume 5, End of the Line. This collects the entire Captain America Sam Wilson series, where you see Sam in all his glory, cowl and all that works in the comics. Maybe not so much in real life, but I highly recommend this series. It's really fun, especially if this whetted your appetite for seeing Sam in that as Captain America. Go get this series, and we'll have links in the description.
Truly the power broker of the MCU podcast, just, selling his wares every single week here on MCU Later. So thank you, everybody. You could find me at Way0937. I hope most of you listening live will go to youtube.com/postwrestling for our UFC coverage tonight with John and Phil. And thank you all for listening. We'll talk to you soon. Until next time.
MCU Later.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This was, a show we're really looking forward to, and I didn't even know it was set to happen because of some technical issues. So I thought it went pretty well. So thank you, everybody, for your calls. Great discussion, great chat in the chat room. Shout out to Jeff Schumann. Great insight throughout the day, and thank you, Nate and WH. I've looked forward to talking to you guys every single week. So. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wade. Thank you, Nate.
That was fun. Yes, we'll definitely have to do this again sometime, fellas.
Cracker Barrel?
Yes, at a Cracker Barrel in Jacksonville.
Wonderful. All right, guys, I'm going to edit this and upload it, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks a lot.
Sounds good, brother.
Later.